Hello everybody, my name is Michael, and in today's video what we're going to be doing is this right here. So if that looks interesting to you, please carry on and watch the video. And also, just one more thing before we go. Please, if you enjoy the video, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. But with all that out of the way, let's carry on with the video. Okay, so painting up our Gloomstalker here, and as you can see, our Gloomstalker is on this nice base that I've made up for here, but we're just going to be focusing on the painting, and we're going to be starting off with shyish purple to do this. And shyish purple is a dark purple contrast paint that is going to be nice and good for flowing into all the detail that we've got in here, especially since this Gloomstalker has a lot of like wrinkles and muscles and that sculpted into it, really nice, so it's going to help bring that out. But I'm actually going to be using 2 coats of the shyish purple, so I'm giving a complete all over coverage with the shyish purple, wait for that to dry, and then go over again with a second layer to really make it dark. It's going to be almost black by the time it comes out with, but I want it to be the absolute darkest layer, because Gloomstalkers, they're very, going off the official artwork at least, they're very plain and one colour basically. They're just a darkish purple with a little bit of grey here and there, so I want to jazz that up a little bit, add in a little bit more interest and see where we can bring out some nice depth of colour and interest to just having the one colour on a miniature. So going with that, going with the 2 layers to really darken down so we've got that nice base coat to work from. And then you can see with those 2 layers of shyish purple that we're super dark and almost black. And now we're going to come in with our lighter purple, which is going to be alien purple. It's a very bright, vibrant purple. And we're going to be placing this on in a dabbing motion, or stippling motion as it's commonly called. And we're going to be stippling it on to the highest point of the area. So I'm not going to go over the entirety of the model. It's sort of like making a highlight by jabbing at it / like moving it over to dry brushing it. It's nice and simple technique. I'm going to be aiming for the highest areas and just leaving the recesses in there. So it's going to look very, very messy to start off with and look like you're just sort of ruining that paint job on there. But once you've been stippling it on in a couple of layers and going over top, you'll see it to start sort of blending into the environment now, and you'll see it'll start progressively getting more and more vibrant the more layers you add. It's going to be a little bit of a process to get this on there and build up those layers. It's going to slowly build up. As you can see, it's barely making a difference at the moment, but once you put a couple of those layers in the stippling motion, we'll have a nice texture on there and the color will start coming out. Then once you're happy with that build up of colour, we're going to come in now with some dragon red, and this is going to be for the mouth of the miniature. I'm going to be painting just inside the mouth here and the tongue, really getting a nice good overall coat. Oh, and one thing too, since we're using a red paint, it's quite thin, and especially since I'm not shooting it on the actual camera so you can't really see what I'm doing, I'm just being careful using a small fine tip brush to get into that mouth so we don't get it anywhere we don't want to. And of course it's a nice secret technique, which is why I'm hiding it off camera and making it look like I'm filming it. No, so just a nice simple thing there, building up those layers of that red, since it's quite a thin paint, especially since I'm using dragon red. It's a reasonably thin paint, so I'm going to have to use a couple of layers to do this. And it's just a matter of going in there and giving those layers so we've got a nice red colour on that mouth. Then once we have that mouth complete, we're going to come in now with grimoire purple, which is a more desaturated purple, but also a lighter colour as well. I'm going to be applying it in the exact same way we applied our alien purple in the steps just before, which is stippling it on a dabbing motion, but this time adding more for the highlighted regions. And as you can see, by immediately placing it on, this grimoire purple is sort of like a pinkish purple tone in it, very, very light purple. You can see it's immediately placing it on highlights where we want it to here and really popping out the color. So we're just going to be building this up, really getting it super, super bright. I'm actually going to go really bright on this, adding quite a few layers to really punch it up, and so you can really see where those highlights are on here, and well, to really make it stand out, make it very, very interesting, and we'll be able to add it into the effects and mute it down a little bit later on. Then once we have that complete, what we're going to do now is come in with stirge tan, which is an even brighter color, basically pink at this point. And I'm going to be stippling it on again in the exact same way, this time being a lot thinner and more precise with it, aiming for the very, very highest ridges. Like you can see here, I'm going with the ridge of the brow, tip of the nose, the high points of the wings, just really carefully laying it on there. As well, I'm going to be also laying it on reasonably high here, so we can get those nice bright highlights and then really differentiate. You can see now by adding in those colors that we've been stippling on, we've got a nice texture going, and we have a lot of color in the different layers of the purple there, so it really makes it stand out, especially from a distance on the table. Then once we have that complete, you can see we've got some really high highlights on there, and we've got a lot of stippling texture, but now it's time to mute that all down and really tie it in together so we're not getting some massive like contrasting bits of color in there. And that is coming in with Druchii Violet, which is a purple wash. Any purple wash will do here. Druchii Violet is what I'm going for, and I'm going to be washing it over the entirety of our miniature here, even the mouth and everything there, just to really all incorporate it into the one piece. And it's going to nicely mute it all down and really make those areas where we stippled it on more of a transition into color rather than being splotched on techniques. Now, of course, going with that is also another great way to get those really nice high contrast points, but adding the wash on here is really just going to nicely tie it all together. Then once that's completely dry, you can see that we've got it all nicely placed in together, and we've got some nice transitions between those colors. But now what I'm doing, I'm coming in here with a black grey, and I'm just using it to be painting up our claws that we've got on our Gloomstalker here. So just a nice grey, really try and switch it up from that purple that we've got, especially all over the area, and giving it that nice grey colour. So it's going to make it just stand out just a little bit. It's barely going to be noticeable. You could probably easily skip this step, but I wanted to just have a little bit of difference in colour so you can tell these are the claws and a separate part from the wing. Then once we have those claws picked out, we're going to come in now with some basalt grey, which is an even lighter grey here. It's still a very dark grey, but way lighter than what we use in our black grey. And we're going to use this as our highlight area, so we get that sort of glint from our light source that you can see that we've got a bit of shine on our claws. And this, like I said, I'm just adding it on as extra detail to the piece, so you can see that they're separated out from the actual rest of the body and the wings there to give that little degree of separation. But totally up to you whether you want to do it here. You could easily just leave it the way it is and have it the same sort of dark purple that we've been having it as well. But you can see I didn't place any highlights on there with the purple stippling, so at least you can tell that they are a different piece from the actual wing. Then once we have that complete, what we're going to be doing now is coming in with some ivory. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to be using it to be picking out our Gloomstalker's teeth. So for this, you want to pick out a nice, really fine tip brush that you've got here, and really just put a little bit of paint on there and just scrape around the top. So you can see I'm not using the tip of my brush, I'm using the flat edge around the tip of my brush, so I can just drag it along nice and carefully and pick out all the little sculpted in teeth, because they are very small in their sculpted detail. But you can see that they are there, especially when you pick them out with the edge of the brush here, and it just really makes it look a lot more cohesive and like the monster we're trying to portray as well. Then once we've used that brush to pick out the teeth, we also want to use that brush again with some nice flat yellow, which is going to be a nice big vibrant pop of colour on our miniature, and we're going to be using it for the eyes of our Gloomstalker here. Now this is a little bit different from the official artwork colour of the Gloomstalker eyes. I believe they're a whitish colour, but I want to go with something really vibrant and eye-catching so you can really see the menace in this creature's eyes, and also we want that extra color there, otherwise it's a very lot of purple and white on this miniature. So we want to come in with those pops of colors like we have with our red tongue there and our eyes as well, to just add that visual interest and also attract your eye to the miniature in the face where we want to see have that nice bit of detail that we've had in there. Then once we've completed those eyes, what we're going to do now is come in with some apothecary white, and we're going to be using this for the main part of our Gloomstalker here, which is the smoke that surrounds it, as it is called a Gloomstalker because there's this gloomy greyish smoke that comes billowing off it when it's flying around. It just constantly has this eerie smoke around it, since it is a creature from the Shadowfell, I believe, and it has this sort of ominous presence around it. And our apothecary white used on all this clear effects here, it's really going to give it a smoky appearance once we apply a couple of layers to it, because apothecary white is actually sort of a bluish greyish white, and it's a really good colour for smoke effects. I have used it in the past to do this sort of thing, and I think it would be a great fit for our Gloomstalker here. And once we build up a couple of layers of this, like I think I ended up by using 3 layers in total. But remember, while we're doing this too, keep the layers thin. Thin out your paint if you need to, or just make sure that you're spreading it over correctly, because you apply too many layers of this and you're going to lose that translucent effect on here. Now you will, of course, naturally lose a little bit of the translucent effect with the paint on here, but with contrast paint it's already nice and thin, so you can carefully apply it as much as you want to here. You may only want the 1 layer, so you've got a very subtle clear effect, whereas me, I go with a bit more of a heavy looking smoke effect, so you can really see that smoke coming, but it looks great in the end. So let's move on to some of those glamour shots to see what it came out like in the end. And with all that completed, we have finally finished painting up our Gloomstalker from the Critical Role miniatures line by wizkids. So I hope this video has been helpful for you guys, whether you want to follow along with what I did here, or you just want to use this video as some inspiration in painting up your own miniatures. But with all that said, guys, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video.